LL Nation, what's good? Lucky Lefty Podcast, brought to you by Onora Whisky, OnoraWhiskey.com. It's that premium American whiskey, OnoraWhiskey.com. And if you drink, by all means, make sure that you drink
responsibly.
Happy Tuesday to everybody out there. Don't forget, tomorrow, special guest, 11 a.m., none other than Coach Carl Reed, big bro of the Lucky Lefty Podcast, will be here to talk college football, recruiting, and much more with us. Coach Carl Reed tomorrow at 11 a.m. at the top of the hour. All right. Today we're going to get started. Of course, we're going to discuss several points from the Marcus Freeman press conference. We're going to talk about Stanford just a little bit. I mean, there's not much to talk about when it comes to Stanford. They limp in to South Bend on Saturday, and, we'll dig a little bit into some of the things that they'll be bringing offensively, what to watch for. But I don't know why, man, they might have to go to the altar and offer sacrifice, bro, because the injury bug has hit them so bad over the last 3 to 4 seasons. It's almost like, man, what is David Shaw doing in his personal life, bro, to bring on all of this type of bad luck, as people would say it. But yeah, you kind of feel bad for what that program is, because this used to be a really good rivalry going back to about 5 years ago and extending like 7 years prior, all the way back to like 2008 and 9, when Stanford kind of elevated itself as a program. It used to be a really good game, but now, I don't know.
It'll be a good game this year, though.
You think so?
Yeah, it'll be a good game. Look, all our games are going to be what BYU look like. We're supposed to win. We're expected to win, but they're not going to be the games where it'd be more like how 2012 was, where we were better than most of the teams, but we played to the wire with teams that, like Pittsburgh and the Purdue's of the world. We played them close, even though we won.
Let's get to it, bro. Marcus Freeman, he met with we can start with the obvious, man. He met with the media yesterday. There were several interesting questions. And towards the end of the press conference, Marcus Freeman was asked, oh, man, do you regret starting Tyler Buchner coming out of camp?
No, I don't question that decision at all. That was earned. That was earned through practice, and we made a decision. And sometimes the results, can put a mask over your eyes and cloudy the process to getting to that decision. And I know we didn't win that game in 3 quarters that Tyler played, but Tyler Buchner earned the right to be the starter through preparation. Now, Drew Pine's done a superb job, and he's done an excellent job at leading his team, and he's earned the right, obviously, now to be our starting quarterback, and has done a great job with this opportunity. But no, I don't question our decision in terms of making Tyler a starter to start the year.
First of all, I thought it was a strange question, and the way it was kind of delivered was tricky as we get ready to approach Halloween. But nonetheless, I'll let you go ahead and give your thoughts as the quarterback on the show.
Well, I mean, it's a question to try to throw him off, I think. But no, I mean, Tyler Buchner, like Marcus Freeman said, deserved the right to start. We know that Tyler's more of a talent that you want to put out there at the position than what Drew Pine has. We know that Drew Pine is like Cooper Rush. He can win some games for you because he's been there for a while. He's comfortable with the play calls, so he's going to execute, but not on a level to where you're saying, oh, we're going to take him into Alabama and feel good. we played Tyler because we felt like Tyler was talented enough to win the games against Ohio State, the Clemsons, and potentially in the playoffs. So that was the hopes. Not that Drew couldn't go out there and perform against teams that we're expected to beat, because we believe Tyler could have did that as well. And I think if Tyler was healthy, we would be at the same point in the season that we are now. I think the fact that you got to factor in that we're a very talented team all across the board is a lot of support to the quarterback position. Our whole thing was the quarterback position being supported now has to carry that through the finish line in the games that we really needed. So no, I don't think Marcus Freeman is thinking twice about why maybe he should have started Drew, because we saw what Drew looked like first half when he got the chance to start. And if that was what he looked like against Ohio State, it wouldn't have been what the score was.
Right. Tyler started off hot.
Yeah, Tyler
at the
started
beginning of the
off hot.
Ohio State game. So
Exactly. So, it's some revisionist history by the journalist there, but they always gonna try to throw something to throw him off, and I'm glad he handled it well.
and there is buzz people, we started calling him, we felt it and heard it. That's why we started calling him the people's champ last year. When Tyler and Jack Cohn were actually still on the roster. We were like, yo, Drew Pine is the people's champ. Like, people want to see this kid win. People want to see this kid play. They pull for him for whatever reason. And to say anything short of what he has been for the last 2 games and half of the Cal game is absolutely phenomenal. He's been absolutely phenomenal. Like, all we asked of him is 220 yards and 2 touchdowns every week. That's all we said. If you give us 220, 2 touchdowns every week, we feel really good. And Notre Dame is going to be able to win the game. Now, he might need to do a little bit more against USC and Clemson, but that comes with the territory in big games, right? To whom much is given, much is required. You're the quarterback of Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Heavy is the head that wears the crown, my dude. You don't get forgiveness from that. That comes with the territory. Either you can produce or you can't. And I don't think the schedule is going to be challenging enough for us to really see truly, because he didn't face any press. He barely got touched against BYU.
Yeah.
Barely got touched against BYU. Barely got touched against North Carolina. That won't be the case on November 5th.
That's right.
You believe that.
I look at the games that Drew plays against teams we're expected to win, like how taxes are. For every dollar you spend on a real product, you really spend $2 because you got to give one in taxes. So every good play is only half credit, only because it's the circumstance. It's like you already got everything in front of you. If you're not getting touched all game, anybody can go back there and cook. It's just about, that's the credit to having a well-built team. But Drew making some plays here and there, you can give him credit for that. But let's not run away with the fact that he was the solution the whole time.
Yeah. And Coach Freeman, even in his press conference, was very complimentary and talked about the improvement from his play calling. From his
he's starting to make some plays where he's improvising a little bit. I know the one he's falling down, he throws the ball to Audric, and we're like, oh, okay. That's one that we thought he's probably going to take a sack. But that comes with confidence. I think when you start making the right decisions, you take care of the football, now you're seeing them start to make plays. And what you're also seeing is some receivers and a tight end make them look really good. And he'll get credit for that. But that catch that Jaden Thomas made for a touchdown was a heck of a catch. And I've always said it, man, quarterbacks will get praise and take blame for maybe certain areas that they don't have to. But, it's good to see some guys making him look good and him making some plays.
Did you hear that, Love? Did you hear what Coach Freeman said?
Care of the football, now you're seeing them start to make plays. And what you're also seeing is some receivers and a tight end make them look really good.
Did you hear that? Did you hear that?
I heard it. The cool thing is that Marcus Freeman is realistic. I think the thing that he's not falling into the trap of is the media boosting it, and then we get a game where he doesn't play well, and they try to blame it all on Drew Pine. But I think Marcus Freeman is doing a great job of keeping it centered, focused on the importance of what the team is doing, playing well together. And that's all that matters. Obviously he knows that having 87 on your team is going to make you look really good. Whether that was Tyler, whether that was Drew or me or anybody, 87 will make you look really good. Also, like he said, the young talent on the team, Jaden Thomas making that catch, Lorenzo Styles making plays.
Yeah.
Now you're starting to see what we were so excited about going into the season is that we have screen poppers at the skill positions.
Yeah.
And like I said, also, Drew Pine being in there more comfortable with Tommy, can execute the offense more to Tommy's liking. You're going to see more guys flash. You're going to see more guys make plays and pop on a game-to-game basis where it may be a different guy every week because we know that Tommy can really get into his bag and mix up a lot of different looks. So this is right on cue to where we expected the season to be, just a different name at quarterback than where we thought we would be at.
Yo, man. It's just amazing that the head coach, when you start to hear how people have preferences and they just won't believe, like the staff, right? The staff, and then they tell you stuff like, you can't read into the blue and gold game, what you saw. Well, you can't read into what you saw the first half against Cal. And I don't care if it was Tyler Buchner or Drew Pine, like neither one of them was going to be the reason that this offense was good. Like there is no CJ Stroud in the quarterback room. There is no Bryce Young in the Notre Dame quarterback room, right? And not only did Marcus Freeman, and I loved his answers yesterday, not only did Marcus Freeman diffuse that whole regret question, but then he talked about the playmaking ability and how Drew's getting better at making off-script plays. But he threw in there that he's being made to look good because of the wide receivers and the tight end that he has. He even took it a step further. We talked about it a little bit earlier. The main reason why Drew Pine is looking good in comparison to what we saw from the Notre Dame offense in the first two games. Back in the day when John Riggins was running wild, they used to refer to the guys in front of him as the Hogs. Right? Remember?
That's right.
The Hogs, the Joe Jacoby, Mark, that crew, the Hogs. Well, I'm going to call Notre Dame's crew the Dogs.
Okay.
He's got them dogs in front of him, right? Zeke Correll, JP, Joe Alt, Josh Lugg, Blake Fisher. Got them dogs in front of him. And Marcus Freeman talked about those dogs.
Line is just getting better, and that's over the course of 5 games, and that you see a group that's just getting better and better and better, and 5 guys just gelling and really communicating and executing at a high level. Drew's doing a great job of getting us into the right protections, but that's an area we got to continue to grow at. That's the number one thing we had as an emphasis this game is make sure we are in the correct protection to protect yourself. Protect the offense, but protect yourself. And so it's an area we'll continue to get better at, but they're all continuing to have some cohesiveness and be on one accord, and it's showing with the execution.
You cannot execute offense without the offensive line, bro.
That's right.
We can talk about receivers, quarterback, tight end. If that O-line is huff, doesn't matter.
Too much. Yeah, cannot do much. And I think, hit the nail right on the head is sticking to our identity of being physical up front. And that it requires offensive line to be physical up front, play as a unit. I really think it's important to see the increased value of how the offensive line is playing factors into these games as the season goes on. The only quote I really liked from Kelly that he had was, "The pretenders are in October and the contenders are in November. Offensive line make us November contenders every year," which is why I'm glad November 5th is a great timed out game for us, because now we know how serious we can be with a great game in November as a contender for a Fiesta Bowl or January 6th Bowl. So the offensive line getting better week to week is only helping the skill players get more available and just keeping Drew Pine off the ground. It seems like if we can keep him off the ground long enough, he'll be able to keep the game going and keep it close enough so we can win in the end.
Lucky Lefty Podcast, Shaun Davis, the original Lefty himself, Malik, Zaire, brought to you by Onora Whisky. Talking about Marcus Freeman and some of his comments from his press conference yesterday. Now, the O-line has gotten so good. I just want to point this out. You have over 800 total yards of offense just from the running backs.
Thanks.
In the last 3 games. Let me say that again, bro. Over 800 yards of offense just from your running backs in the last 3 games.
And a lot of these runs are straight down the middle now. We ain't, spread them and running a bunch of sweeps. It's between the tackles, A gap, B gap, tough 4, 5, 7 yard runs.
Mm-hmm.
We might get on the edge sometime, get something with Chris Tyree, but we middle of the field, down the middle,
Well, anytime Chris Tyree was in the game, as I watched the film and watched the game over again, BYU did a really good job trying to take Chris Tyree away. What they felt like, they knew that they didn't play the edge well up to the season, and they felt like Chris Tyree was the one that could attack them on the edge. And so what they would do goes back to what Marcus Freeman just said, getting us in the right protection and get us in the right look. What they would do is out leverage before the snap to the field when Chris Tyree was in the game. And every time they tried to run outside with Chris Tyree, they just had numbers. He couldn't get anything going. And then Chris Tyree just had, I don't know what it was. He was out over his heels, falling and slipping even in the return game. His footing wasn't good, didn't have good balance. So he just had a bad day. But even with that, for that running back room to give you over 800 yards of total offense in 3 games is absolutely phenomenal. And I don't see Stanford, I don't see UNLV, and I don't see Syracuse being able to really put a dent in that trend. I think they're going to continue to put up offense and be dominant. And I think that offensive line is going to continue to get better. That's why I said going into October, this schedule has really played out beautifully for Notre Dame to get better as a team.
And especially better together. And I think you get to see a lot more development on a unit base where you get to see the flashes of every unit. You get to see the D-line making plays against North Carolina. You get to see the secondary making plays against OSU. You get to see the tight ends in the skill position shine against BYU, and the running backs against North Carolina. So you starting to see just how good this team can really be on an individual basis. But now getting into these tougher games in November, you feel a lot more confident knowing that we have matchup problems with a lot of teams we have on the schedule.
Go into that a little bit. Like, what do you think those matchup problems will be? Because we look at the statistics, Stanford, injuries up front, really can't stop the run, struggle to stop a run. They gave up a big run late to make that game close and eventually gave up what some can consider a jump ball, but a 50-yard touchdown in the closing moments to kind of like snatch defeat out of the jaws of victory. Talk about some of those matchups that you think Notre Dame can take advantage of.
Well, a lot of it is like we talked about earlier, is in the trenches. Our offensive line is going to become a problem for a lot of D-lines as the season grows on towards later in the season. When it gets colder, we end up getting stronger for some reason.
Yeah.
And when that comes, it's going to be tough to bring down that 240 guy in the backfield with Aldrich Estime, who in my opinion, is still a really solid foundation piece that's going to give a lot of teams problems that want to do a lot of cute stuff and trying to stop our offense from moving side to side. Yeah, they made the adjustment to Chris Tyree. You overload the field so we can't outflank you, but then you put a guy like Aldrich in there. How you going to stop that right down the middle? You got to get something close to a balanced look. And then outside of the threat of that, tackling him is a whole nother story. So being able to have a guy that can fall forward for 4 to 5 yards every time he touch it, it just adds a real tough complication for defensive coordinators looking at, okay, what do we want to take away most? Obviously, we look to take away Chris Tyree, but you got two other factors in the backfield. And then on top of that, if we're loading the box, you got a guy, Michael Mayer, that can play inside, outside, and block and give trouble to the guys on the edges as well as one-on-one. So there's many different answers that you have to go about. And then when you start to see guys like Jaden Thomas flash, guys like Lorenzo Styles and Braden Lindsey with a lot of speed, and then Drew Pine being able to keep the offense balanced enough to where you just can't sell out on the run all day. You got to be able to find ways to throw it down the field. And I think that's what's going to give teams some problems. And then defensively, do you sell out on max protection and stopping Isaiah Fauski and the Amendola brothers and Riley Mills and the Howard Crosses of the world, or do you try to, go back to what teams have tried to do before with a fast tempo, put our linebackers in one-on-one, make us tackle in space? I think we're getting better at it, or at least not giving up the biggest plays for touchdowns. We can still limit teams to small points, which is going to give teams like a USC problems that is used to scoring 40-plus points. I think what Oregon State showed was that if you can keep it under a 30-point game, you can really get on USC pretty good in the run game. So it's a lot of things I'm excited to see moving forward, but we got some things in the tank that I think some coordinators are going to need more than a week to prepare for. I think you're on mute.
I was just looking over some stats. I'll flip to the other side. You talk about that offensive line. This defensive line, as the weather starts to change and gets a little bit colder, can become a driving force, more of a driving force for this defense. And it can start this week. You have a big-time quarterback, that was highly touted out of high school coming in, Tanner McKee, but he's a statue. You got after him last year, right? You can get after him again. Maybe you can do it with your front four. If you want to bring blitzes, just make sure you don't do the exotic NFL blitzes from 15 yards away. Like that, the execution on that, and we're going to get to that because Coach Freeman talked about that when we talk about how to correct the mistakes coming up in a few short minutes, Lucky Lefty podcast. But even with that, this defensive line has the opportunity to step up and make plays the way we've seen them make plays in the fourth quarter. Now, I would like to see it a little bit more spread out and consistent throughout the game to kind of stop those drives that end up being touchdowns. But either way, this defensive line has a chance this week going up against an offensive line and an offensive unit that's giving up a sack every 9 snaps. Now, that's basically what you're facing right now. You're going up against, they give up not a sack every 9 snaps, bro. Right? So that's 5 sacks. If they just run 45 plays, which is pretty much what BYU, that's 5 sacks sitting there waiting for you. Minimum. So, look, make it happen. Go out there, set the tone early in this game. Get these dudes up out of here.
Yeah, don't let teams hang around.
Yeah. You don't need to be making 4-down stops late in the fourth quarter to secure wins. No. Just do your job. Everybody. It's not just Drew Pine. Everybody. Do your job. And Marcus Freeman, he was a little perturbed, because people kept asking him yesterday multiple times in different ways about the lapses and, the 10 minutes here defensively, you play well, and then all of a sudden you hit a drought and teams are able to run on you, and then they hit big plays in the passing game. It's like, yo, what's going on? And he hit it indirectly, and then he hit it directly. And this is what Marcus Freeman had to say about those mistakes.
Touchdown, the first touchdown is just a lack of execution. It's not the play call; it's just an execution error, and so you're not pointing as a head coach. I'm not pointing the finger at the player. You're looking at the coaches and saying we didn't coach it well enough, and that's on us. And that we've called this call multiple. We've called this defense multiple times, and we didn't execute it. And what happens when you don't execute versus a good team? Goes for a 40, 50-yard touchdown, and that's what happened. And so there it is, a very fine line between executing and giving up a big play for a touchdown. Then the next series they score, you got a team 3rd and 18 and you don't convert, you don't stop them. It's a heartbreaker, and we have to be better. We can't. 3rd and 18 and you're on defense, and that's something you have the utmost confidence in. You're in a really good position. And so that's where we got to be better. And then what happens over the course of that drive, they drive it, and it ends up being the fourth quarter, and we misfit the touchdown for another big play run. And so it all goes back to execution. If you execute on 3rd and 18, we're not worried about the touchdown in the fourth quarter. If we execute on that play call for the long pass, and so we're not talking about 2 touchdowns, and again, for me, I challenge the coaches. It's not that kid's fault. We got to coach it better. And then in turn, that kid's going to say, you know what, he did coach me. He did teach me. I got to execute better. And so it really trickles downhill.
You're mute, bro.
The best thing he could have said was put on the coaches, especially when they're trying to give you the runaround with these questions to get you caught up. I think he's absolutely right, because it's very true. Challenge the coaches more. A lot of times coaches love to say the player can't do, but the player also wasn't coached well enough to see if he could do. So I think it's a good challenge because it keeps people on their toes. You don't want nobody to get lazy in the building, especially if you have a talented room. There's a lot of talent in our position rooms, and it's really good to continue to push a Al Washington, a Chancey Stuckey, a Tommy Reese, a Harry Heastand to continue to push themselves to get those guys better. So that's all is what is going to be the ingredients to keeping us on this trajectory of getting better each and every game throughout the season.
And what he said is spot on, bro. And Ryan Weichel, we thank you for tapping in. It's nice to hear a coach not blame the kids. Just flat out, And what he has is he has a structure. I'm going to go talk to my coaches. The coaches in turn need to go talk to the players and coach them. And then the player needs to be accountable enough to say, you know what? You did tell me that. I have to correct this. I have to do better. That's where accountability comes from. It's not necessarily coming before the media saying, well, this is what happened and this guy and that guy. It's all good. But the structure of Marcus Freeman taking it upon himself, I'm going to get on the coaches. What's up with this? I thought he explained it beautifully. He really did. And if that's the way he's doing things, I like it. I like it. Now, you're on mute, just so you know. He went a step further, bro. He made it personal and was wise about the way he did it, to the point that the way he said it, he got his point across without doing damage, if you will. Listen to Coach Freeman as he further talks about making mistakes.
Everybody was on the same page. You didn't execute. And, the guy that had that responsibility knew what he was supposed to do. And so let's figure out why. And that's what I just said on the headset. figure out why he didn't do it and what he was thinking, what he saw. He might have saw something and I thought he was running out route. I tried to jump the out route. That's not what we want, but at least we know why. If he starts saying, I didn't know what to do, then that's a serious issue. Jaden knew what he had to do. He had to carry number 2 vertical, and he didn't do it. He was jumping a different route. And so we have to make sure that he understands, hey, you can't jump the out route right now in cover 2. You know, you got to make sure you carry that guy up the seam. And so it isn't – if I heard over the headset, hey, I don't know why he did that, he has no clue what he's doing, and Jaden's saying, I didn't know what I was doing, then there's serious concern. The challenge is, hey, let's coach it better. Let's coach it better, and Jaden got to execute it better, and he will. He's going to be a great player.
And when we saw Jaden in the spring and even in fall camp, he's certainly not somebody who lacks confidence. So in that regard, when he's maybe some things haven't gone his way, how have you seen him respond to that and kind of respond to?
So I cut that off. He basically said, yeah, it messes with your confidence. He's a freshman, but he's so confident that when he goes out there, he's going to play. It's not like he's shook. He just feels bad because he knows that he let the team down and he didn't execute. And that goes back to what he talked about. I'm getting on the coaches get on the players take accountability and then execute and correct the mistake. And that's the way it should be, and that's the way it has to be. And for him to talk about that in that specific play, because the media kept asking about it different ways, he finally just said, look, you keep trying to come at my player. He knows what he needs to do. Stop. We're not about to paint this narrative like he's lost. He's not lost. He knows exactly what his assignment is. He didn't do it. And he's going to get it right. We're going to make sure he gets it right. And he's going to be a great player. I love that. Because some people might say, well, man, he said his name. No. He protected him in that moment. And let the media know, stop all this. Because I see where you're trying to go.
And that's where Marcus Freeman comes in as the refreshment of the program in terms of protecting his guys. And this is where the guys in recruitment and the guys on the team fall in love with, is that he's still a player's coach in that aspect. He's not going to let his guys be hung out to dry, especially when they can't go to the media every week and defend themselves. So it's definitely good to see that coach has your back, even if inside the media he's cussing you out every day. At least when he go to the podium, he going to save face and help you out. So I think that's what's going to help the confidence, and what Marcus Freeman talks a lot about, the confidence of his players to go out there and play beyond the level of what they think they can. And I think with the protection that Marcus Freeman, not giving them excuses, which is one thing. He's just giving the honest coach truth about evaluating his own players, and he sees the potential. He's not just saying, oh, he's greatest thing since sliced bread, but he is acknowledging the growth, which is important.
And let's be honest. You know, Benjamin Morrison is pretty much, at this point in time, Benjamin Morrison is a better player than Jaden Mickey. He just is, right? They're both going to be really good. Benjamin Morrison is just a little bit further ahead as a player. That's why he's starting at the field. Jaden Mickey is playing 2 positions as a true freshman. He's the backup in the field, and he's the backup in the slot. He's playing outside. He's played field and boundary, honestly. He's played outside, and he's playing inside. Yeah. Right? And as a true freshman, Coach Freeman is right. Like, yo, when you can come to the sideline and say, I saw this and I jumped this. It's like, no. All right, so now there's nothing wrong with your eyes. Now you have to understand situations. So we have to coach better. Like, okay, I understand why you did that, but this is the situation. Right? This is 2nd and long. This is 3rd and long. Like, we let him have that short pass. Don't jump that. Let him have that, come up and tackle. We need you to carry this guy down the seam to force him to go to that pass. And those are just the nuances that, you know, as a young freshman, he'll learn. Situational football. Some of the same things Tariq Bracy made mistakes as a freshman. Clarence Lewis made mistakes as a freshman. It comes with the territory. It's just magnified because it turned into a touchdown. And the people on the back end, 3 other defenders, couldn't get one receiver down on the ground. Right? And so now we're talking about it. But Jaden Mickey is not the only one. We've seen Clarence Lewis turn a guy loose against North Carolina. We saw Tariq Bracy in cover 2 turn his back to a wide receiver and turn him loose in cover 2. Like, this isn't, situations. For me, it seems like it's more situational. Like, they know what they're doing and what the call is, but the nuances of it, like, we have to understand time, distance, all of that. That will let us know, like, what we really need to play, because you can't stop everything if you're in a zone. You're going to give something up.
Yeah, you're going to give something up.
And what you want to give up is the short pass.
That's right.
And you can't give up those big plays. Lucky Lefty podcast. You just can't. You can't. So we had the pleasure, if you missed yesterday's show, we had the pleasure of former Notre Dame linebacker Pete Bursich. He joined us on the Players Lounge each and every Monday at 11 o'clock. We have the Players Lounge. And he talked linebacking 101. 101. And you should go watch it and check it out if you missed it. He gave some great insight on basically the triangle of the vision of a linebacker and the 3 things that all linebackers have to look for pre-snap and then go and play downhill at 100 miles per hour. It was a great interview. If you missed it, check it out. But in talking about that, he talked about the linebackers, and he mentioned that, now offenses want to get you purposely in space and go to tempo to take advantage. And he said, in a perfect world, you want a linebacker that can hit and run. He's like, if you have linebackers that can hit and run, now you have guys that can stay out there no matter what the offense is doing. I think the way we see these linebackers shuffled in and out, I think we know and understand that really hasn't been the case, right?
Right.
Or that isn't the case. It might exist in this freshman class that for the most part is being red-shirted, in my opinion. I think Marcus Freeman has a clear vision for his freshman linebackers. You know what? Redshirt them, get them ready to rock and roll next season.
Right.
And he feels that they have enough at the linebacker position to go out there and be pretty good.
Yeah, we definitely have enough bodies, but that doesn't mean we have enough enough talented bodies. I think that's where he's putting it on the onus on the coaching staff. Look, coach these guys up.
Yeah.
They not already made products. We got to do some manufacturing on it. So I do think it's going to take a little bit of time, but in terms of, like we said, you got enough people there. You just got to turn those people into products on the field.
Yeah, Lucky Lefty podcast. So he talked about, now this is where this gets interesting, Left. Marcus Freeman said some stuff, and, the fan in me was like, huh? But then I thought about it, and I said, you know what? I can't wait for Left to talk about this because he's actually been in the trenches and probably has a different POV. But here's his comments about the linebacker play and the linebacker group.
He's doing a good job in there, and Jack's an extremely intelligent player. He's probably, if not one of the most athletic linebackers we have. That's why we played him a lot at Rover, where you're playing him out in space. But he can do so many different things, and what you're seeing now is him playing middle linebacker and getting everybody lined up, but also just executing at a high level. And, we're going to have a challenge, and it's great. And it's healthy competition to say, okay, if we end up with 2 linebackers on the field versus Stanford, who's going to be the first 2 going out? Because JD's back, and he came in the second half and played really well. Jack, overall for the entire game, played really well. Amaris is a guy that we need to play better, but he's playing well, and let's have a little competition to see who's going to be the first 2 to go.
So now it's a competition to see who's going to be the first two out there on the field against Stanford. Jack Kaiser, by the way, got the Defensive Player of the Week last week. He mentioned that. Talked about how well Jack has been playing. I was kind of miffed with the whole, because correct me if I'm wrong. Against North Carolina and BYU, defensively, Notre Dame looked really good. Held teams under the average. I think 60 yards passing, 120 total for the game for Jaren Hall. Did a phenomenal job against that BYU passing offense. Got pressure on Jaren Hall, made him uncomfortable. Drake May, same thing to him in the first half. Shut down the running game of the Tar Heels. You know what the common thread for the second halves of both of those games were? J.D. Bertrand coming back on the field. That's the common thread. So I don't know if it's just a bad luck charm or whatever it is. I know when he didn't play because of suspension in the first halves of those games, the defense looked one way. He comes back on the field, and all of a sudden, crazy stuff starts happening. It could be coincidental. Could be. But I'm just saying. And I was miffed at the fact that he felt like you feel, man, you guys feel like JD's playing really well?
I don't know. I think, common denominators usually are the ones that stick out the most. So, JD acknowledged what he needed to work on last season.
Has it changed, though? He acknowledged it after the bowl game.
Was that changed in offseason? And I think that he's finding that it's probably taking a little bit longer to make those adjustments than what he expected, but also you got guys around you that can play better right now.
Right.
That make it stand out. So as your development is coming along, JD, it might have to be put behind guys that are more ready right now. And I think Marcus Freeman is smart enough to know that we can't let that sink the ship because we have so much respect for JD, Got to be able to make the right decision on who's more ready to play because it helps the team in totality.
I will say this. You talk about Kaiser, and I see some people in the chat. Kaiser leads the team in total tackles. He's fourth on the team in tackles for loss, and he has 2 sacks and a forced fumble. So he was asked to move inside to give the flexibility to put Maris in better positions and put him in space, more of a will type position, and he's done that. He's been asked to move inside because of JD being suspended. He's moved inside, and the defense has looked pretty good in those first halves. And then all of a sudden, here comes JD, and things just go haywire, bro. But you know who I did see flashing and balling against North Carolina and BYU in the first half? Prince Colley. I saw Prince Colley balling.
Yep. Yeah, I did too.
And I think Marcus Freeman sees him balling. But this is where it gets tricky, bro. And I'm just going to play this clip and then I'm going to let you roll. Because the comments by the head coach, I said, wow.
Such thing as a gamer. Your team needs you to be a great practice player. And that's my challenge to Prince, and that's my challenge to many other players in our football program. Everybody talks about Michael Mayer. Michael Mayer is one of the best practice players I've been around. That's what we need our young guys to be. And for Prince to go and make a big play like that, man, it was good to see. He's a talented football player. And he had a really good week of practice. He played more this past game than he probably ever has. And he's still challenged. You got to challenge yourself, man. We need great practice players because that builds confidence in your coaches to put you out there in the game. And that's what I hope to see him do because, listen, talent sets the ceiling of how good you can be, and Prince got a high ceiling. Continue to put the work in practice to gain confidence in your coaches and to make you a better football player. And I think he can be really special.
I get it. You know, if you dropping the ball time in practice, it's hard to put you in there, especially when you're trying to, you know, really build a game plan to feel confident in going into the game. Defensively, you know, I get it. If you blowing coverages, it's almost hard to sacrifice that for splash plays. Is he blowing coverages like that? I mean, clearly it's got to be enough for Marcus Freeman to be like, look, I love you, but man, is it going to be useful in the game for when, you know, we have a lack in talent but may be a knowledge of scheme? I think it's a decision that Marcus Freeman's got to kind of not throw to the wind, but trust the player. I think sometimes you get so caught up in, you know, I don't want him to be the reason why this, that, and the third. But Prince Collie has been there long enough to where he can go in there and figure it out amongst the defense that can support him. Now, if we had a trash defense, I get it. You're like, look, he's just going to make it even worse. But with a defense that's veteran enough, let Prince Collie learn through experience here because if anything, he's going to mess up at 100 miles an hour and damn near do something good on accident. So I can live with that from a explosive, making your defense more competitive. You know, we'll teach you as you go because even in the league now, there's guys that don't know everything. But they are there because they're very special players. So
Yeah.
that's why they're making the money. Now in college, obviously coaches are thinking more about security and job, but Prince Collie got to play. And like he said, he's played more than he ever has in this game, and hopefully continues to play more than that because he needs to play. And at the end of the day, when you need to play as opposed to doing everything right, you're going to be out there. I just hope that Prince Collie takes advantage of this time and grows in knowledge of the game as well.
Yeah, I always wondered about that because, you know, you would tell me if certain guys just, you know, they're not practice guys.
And a lot of that means like a focus thing. Like, you know, we repping the same thing 5-6 times.
Mm-hmm.
Some guys' focus is like, okay, I got it. Why are we doing it over and over again? Why are we explaining it in 5-6 paragraphs when it's really just, okay, that's my key. Okay, I can live with it. Some coaches want to talk 7,000 different looks of the same play and this and that. But when you get in the game, you might see just the one. That's so that over preparation is why I see some guys aren't practice players.
Mm-hmm.
Just like Kyler Murray said, he don't have to watch film all day, but he still loves it. You know, that's just how some guys are. And Prince Collie may be one of those because he's just so dang talented. There's a lot of guys that are just so dang talented that it's like, man, forget it. You don't need to know everything. Just blitz the A-cap. You know?
Right. I think the path, perfect example. You know, we watched the NFL game last night, right? And the two guys that were involved in the collision on the last play, Hunter Renfrow and Devontae Adams. Hunter Renfrow had to probably do a whole lot more, or has to do a whole lot more to be successful in the NFL than Devontae Adams. And that's not saying that Devontae Adams doesn't put in work.
Right.
He just doesn't have to put in as much as Hunter Renfrow because Hunter Renfrow obviously has certain deficiencies physically and athletically that Devontae Adams doesn't have.
Right.
It's like Prince Collie, I would venture to say probably feels and knows that he's the better option at linebacker.
Yeah. And that's tough because it was a little bit how I felt. it was like I know and they know, but you're getting me on a technicality. You know, that's not fair. And the technicality is like a subjective thing. It ain't like I'm watching guys who can't play at that talent level, but they're there because they know where to be, you know. So that's a frustrating thing to watch because you're like, man, I can do that. You know, I just got to remember.
And you know what? When I hear a coach talking like that, and this is just me, he could be identifying who and how important Prince Kollie is going to be as a leader. And because he knows he's going to be a leader defensively, he needs him to be one of the best practice players, similar to what he's talked about with Michael Mayer on the offensive side. Like, it's easy to coach everybody on offense when the hardest worker is the best player. And maybe as a head coach, he sees the future for Prince Kollie. And he knows you're going to be the leader in the middle of this defense. I need you to become that dude every day. Like, I know you're a dude that's going to come out and do it in the game, but I need you to do this. And I'm challenging you to do this so that we can have faith and trust in putting you out there more. So maybe that's what they're thinking. You know, my father used to always tell me, like, man, I used to complain about my baseball coach. He's like, son, if he stops messing with you, then be worried. Because obviously he thinks a lot of you and expects a lot from you. And so maybe that's the same challenge that's being put, you know, at the feet of Prince Kollie. We expect a lot out of you. Come get it. Like, if you want it, come get it.
Yeah, you know, I just think it can be frustrating at times because he's like, man, I'm sick of watching this too.
Yeah.
And, you know, with stuff like that, you can't change a coach's mind in a day or in one practice. So, like Marcus Freeman said, he had a good week. Yeah, it took a whole week to convince you to play me. So if it's by a week-to-week basis, I got to play the whole week to get this time. Golly, that's a frustrating thing, you know. So hopefully they can figure that out. But the longer he continues to make plays, the harder to keep him out of the lineup as well.
Yeah. Lucky Luffy podcast, man. Let's get to some of these comments and questions. ND9, thanks for tapping in. I know BYU is behind us. 2-run questions. Why didn't we attack the edges? And are run gaps that hard to figure out in college football? Example 3 and 17. I don't know who 17 is defensively. Well, I think 17 is Jalen Sneed defensively, and he didn't play. Houston Griffith is number 3.
Yeah,
but they did attack the. Well, they didn't attack the edges as much as they should have.
Right.
When they went more zone scheme and kind of put BYU's big defensive linemen or made them run side to side instead of allowing them just to be stout up the middle and allowing their linebackers to flow over the top, they were kind of successful. I think they were trying to go at the pride of BYU and break them down, right? So running up the middle early as they did were kind of like the
that's on brand for what we wanted, though.
Yeah, gut punches. Like, we're going to work on the body. We're going to work on the body and go to the body early. And then as the game goes on, you know, we'll come upstairs and finish them off. And I think that was the mindset of Tommy Rees. Like, yeah, eventually we'll get to the edges because we know we can beat them there. But we want to soften them up on the inside. And you saw it there. You know, that Logan Diggs run, they softened them up on the inside and brought the counter. He made the guy miss. The Aldrich Estime run, the big run. He ran into the middle. And, the defensive linemen and the linebackers, they were so tired. It was like they couldn't even wrap them up, or the offensive line stayed on their blocks. He broke it to the outside. Big play. And that comes from just attrition and wearing them down over time, because the time of possession was heavily in the favor of Notre Dame. It's been heavily in the favor of Notre Dame for the past 2 games. So, you know, as far as the defense, look, on that long touchdown run for BYU in the fourth quarter, Gabriel Rubio just got beat. He just got beat by the offensive lineman and goes down. J.D. Bertrand, I don't know where his eyes were and what he saw pre-snap, but he takes a full step to the right. And the ball, dude, you see everybody, all the offensive linemen are flowing the opposite direction. So I don't know what he saw. Like, what do you see to make you take that false step? Because the entire flow of the play was going the other way. And he, dude, can't disengage from blocks. We've seen that. I mean, it is what it is.
It is what it is.
But they feel like he's playing at a good level. You know, safety's not coming down. Once again, Jaden Mickey on the 3rd and 17 from the goal line when BYU is conceding is following a wide receiver in zone. And that's his tackle.
And that's
for like an 8-yard gain.
Yeah.
He had a tough game. Like the kid had a tough game. He did. You know, just make sure you know what you're supposed to do in no situational football. Like if I'm playing defensive back and they're backed up, I'm like, dude, they're not throwing this ball.
No.
They're down 19. They're not throwing this ball. They don't want to, no, they don't want to take the chance. So I'm going to give up the flat and keep my eyes on the backfield. And as soon as I see the run or the draw, I'm making a tackle. But that's experience. He'll learn. He needs to learn fast, though.
Definitely need to learn fast. But I think he'll learn fast as the year goes on because he's still a freshman.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, a lot of this is because he hasn't seen these looks in real time. Yeah. It's easy to talk about it, X and O's through the 22 copy on the computer, film room, whatever. But when it's happening in real life, you're like, damn, this is quick.
Okay, you know what? It's different than watching it on TV.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So stuff that you like, oh man, that was how you didn't see that. He probably saw it, but it was just the hesitation of it. I mean, these plays are 2 to 3 seconds at most. So you got to think like, yeah, he's like, oh, this looks familiar. Said hike. Oh shit, I saw it late, and it's over.
Yeah.
And you like, coach, I know it just happened that quick. So
yeah,
that's just a speed adjustment that'll happen, mental speed adjustment that'll happen for him as he gets older, like something like that with Brandon. He'll probably be on it. You know what I mean? He'll react a little faster. It can be the same concept. They can both get hit on it. It's just a matter of the reaction to it. And, you know, these are smart guys. I'm sure Jay Mickey probably 8 times out of 10 probably will make the right play. But, you know, this is all in sequence of a 8-9 play drive.
Yeah.
So you guessing a lot of things can come at you at play 10.
Right. Right.
A lot of things can happen. So you just I gotta make a quick decision. So it's a lot harder when you're in the game than just watching on TV because you're thinking like, oh, that's obvious, but yeah, that's from a sky view.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Michael Morris, the offensive line was playing bad at the first 2 games. The team is just playing better altogether. If Tyler had this team, he would be better than Pine, in my opinion.
Oh no, he can't stay healthy. So,
but that's the unfortunate part, right? Because you really need Tommy to understand I can't put him in harm's way.
But Tommy knows that. He should have known that last year.
Yeah.
You look in the QB room, your guy hurt, your backup's hurt for weeks.
But then when your old line is not playing that well, and the only run, I mean, Tommy just kind of panicked, like, dude, he's the only run game we have right now. That's the way he called the games.
But think about it. All the plays you can create with 11 people. You telling me you panicking or you ain't working hard enough? Come on, man. 11 people is how many different combinations you really think you can get out of that? Thousands.
So you mean to tell me
bad.
you're not? You mean to tell me you're not going to use the goal line play from the 2-yard line, the screen to Michael Mayer?
So I actually got frustrated about this in the game of my quarterback yesterday. Throwing screens and now plays on the 1-yard line. I'm like, what are we? Why would you ever think that's a good idea? I don't care if it was the widest open. Let the running back carry the guy to tackle into the end zone at worst. At worst. I'm like, don't make the defense look like they're Ray Lewis out there. Make them play defense and tackle our guys and believe our guys can run through tackles. You know, it's the 1-yard line, man. That should be, as a coach, that's really frustrating because you're like, okay, we can start thinking about next drive. You start thinking about where the points are and stuff, and then you do stuff like that. And it's like, ain't enough plays to call if you're making everything difficult.
Fam, that might have been the worst play call of the year.
Of the year.
It's 4th and goal. You know they're going to double, triple team Michael Mayer. You already know this. And you split this man out and try to run a screen from the 1.5-yard line.
Now, a lot of that, now I would say this because I like that play call in the field, but it has to be a timing thing where all that stuff is about catching the defense off guard. Just like I said, Jaden Mickey, that play with a guy motioned in and last second he went out for a quick pass for a touchdown. That was a timing thing. Because he's thinking he has time. Okay, I'm seeing it develop. And then the fact that they snap it and he goes right now, he's just not ready, is the same thing for the Michael Mayer thing. If you let him motion out there and set up and stop, and defense like, oh, there he goes, and then they react to it's over with.
Right.
It's got to be like, oh, he's motioning short, is he going out? And then they snap it, they don't know. Now you get the jump on them. So we didn't get the jump on them on that screen, and that's a quarterback thing, a procedural offensive thing, where you got to be like, okay, we know what we're looking for is to catch them off guard. It's not about tricking them. It's
right.
about, okay, we're hitting it to get outside of you real quick because you're stacking the middle. We're not going to let you bump to it. We're just going to hit it before they get there. And, that's a NFL thing. As an NFL thing, trying to take into a college concept, it doesn't work the same.
Yeah. Lucky Lefty podcast, Base and Dahmer. O-line has been the reason for this team's success and failure so far this season. That's fair. That's fair. As one of the biggest contributors. That's fair. That's fair. Jay, thank you for tapping in. I thought Fisher played one of his best overall games, and that's big moving forward. I would agree with that. He continues to get better. I love the relationship you see between him and Harry Heastan. He's definitely taken a liking to being coached hard. I like that from a big-time talent like that. Those close games have me wearing out the edges on my sofa, but I don't know if we're good enough to blow teams out yet.
No, I don't think that's not our identity. It hasn't transitioned fully yet to where we're dominating teams out there. But, we're still in the realm of not getting blown out, keeping games close enough to winning in the end.
Yeah, I'm with that. Last but not least, Anthony Solomon, thank you for tapping in as always. One of our day ones. Either simplify the defense for the linebackers or replace them. We can let the younger kids get valuable experience and make the same mistake as the veterans. The younger guys also have speed.
Linebacker at Notre Dame is just one of those positions that's like a sacred position. If you're going to play, you need to be the smartest, fastest, most legendary, prototype, picturesque player ever. Like, you have to look the part, be the part, all of that. It's not a position where we're funneling NFL talent through all the time to where, it's just a change, a jersey number in there. We're just cracking out 5-star guys. We want it to be a very specific, thing.
Mhm.
Anti, he was a 5-star All-American, had the story and all that, and or you needed Joe Schmidt, looked the part. He's the team captain, Notre Dame thing. Whoopty whoopty whoop. So it's a lot more of a figurehead to be a middle linebacker at Notre Dame than it is to be just the number one linebacker. You the best in the position available. You gotta kind of fit the face of it as well.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think I get the freshmen not playing because just physically they're not ready. And the defense, there's a lot of calls that need to be made. That's a lot to put on a true freshman's plate, unless he's just absolutely phenomenal.
Like Jalen Smith.
And like we said, there is no Jalen Smith in this freshman class. It's just not. They're good.
They're good.
They're good, but they're not that good. They're not that good. And so
shout out to my dog Jalen Smith making plays in London.
Shout out. Yeah, good to see him with the Giants. And Julian is really balling this year. J-Love is balling.
Julian is ball. That's why he's captain.
Yeah.
That's why he's captain.
J-Love is balling, man. I'm going to have to get him out there on that course, though. He talks a lot of trash about his golf game.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he acts like he's Tiger Woods. I'm going to have to see what he has. You know what time it is.
Petticoat. Petticoat Junction.
It's time to get petty.
Oh, we did a good job executing.
Are you upset with something?
And fire up the Petticoat Junction train.
I just don't like you.
You don't?
No.
What is today's petty history? Petty Junction.
That's right. Petty Junction, petty story of the day. Someone said or did something super petty. Brought to you by Onora Whisky. OnoraWhisky.com. That's premium American whiskey. OnoraWhisky.com. We got to throw the NFL on the petty train, bro. I let it slide yesterday. But the Grady Jarrett sack that kept the Falcons from having a chance to win the game. Then last night, quarterback Carr is stripped, doesn't even have the ball. He's not a quarterback anymore. Chris Jones falls on top of him. It goes back to the speed of the game. I understand you might not see that, right? That has to be reviewed, bro. They have to add some of these personal fouls on quarterbacks to plays that can be reviewed because that's ridiculous. First of all, it's a turnover. Yeah. That's the first thing. It's a turnover. And secondly, you're going to get them 50. I think they ended up getting a field goal. The Chiefs still won the game, but it was just a bad weekend. A bad weekend for that call in the NFL.
And the NFL is a business, man. They know how to protect their assets and what brings in that revenue, man. I love to see healthy quarterbacks week to week because it's bad for my fantasy when I don't know what a Joe Flacco is going to do on a week-to-week basis.
Did you at least win this week?
Man, listen, man. Got to adjust the offense a little bit. We're not so much of a balanced team like I thought. We got to be more of a run-heavy team, and it's okay. So we still got playoffs in the horizon. We got to go in there and snatch that so we can make a run.
Oh, man. That is too funny, bro. Oh, man.
But they say the game's about adjustments, man. That's what make it fun.
Yeah, I can't do fantasy, bro. I can't do it. I did fantasy football for 1 year. Sunday mornings, my focus is elsewhere. So that I will always, my boy would always have to hit me to tell me to set my lineups every Sunday morning. Like, dude, set your lineups. And I didn't care, but for the integrity of the league, he's like, dude, like, at least compete. You know, don't just give people wins every week. And so, you know, yeah. Now, I was more interested in the NBA fantasy. That's my thing.
Is that easy to bet on?
Yeah. That was better for me. You know, because I had to set my lineup every day.
Yeah,
right?
every day, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You wait to set your lineup Saturday night, Sunday morning for football. Anything can be happening Sunday morning. You have to reset your lineup every night for the NBA. Right? So for me, it kept me more involved. It was more interesting for me. So yeah, I would play fantasy basketball before I played fantasy football. Yeah. Lucky Lefty podcast. One last question from my guy Rod Tidoff, Shaun and Malik. I never like to lose, but could losing to Marshall actually have helped this team fix issues earlier than expected?
No. Well, losing Marshall was a total mistake, total failure, total shouldn't have never happened. And everything that people felt after that was emotionally right at the time. You shouldn't have lost that game, shouldn't even been close.
So what you're saying, bro, is no such thing as a learning lesson?
Not that one for Marshall. No. Maybe if it was like, you know, a Texas or, you know, a Clemson or something, but not no game we should have outright won. Like, come on, everybody lost betting on that game except Marshall fans.
Except Marshall fans.
Except Marshall fans. Everybody lost that bet except Marshall.
Facts. Lucky Lefty podcast, man. We appreciate you guys for joining us. The March to 3,000 continues. Let everybody know. Lucky Lefty podcast. We spin it different. Fastest growing podcast. Focused on Notre Dame football. We got some big things coming up. Hopefully, they told us that the super chat will be back today. Let us know if it was or not. That was the promise, that the super chat will be back today. If not, you know, I'll jump on them after we get off. Yeah, that's all. That's all. That's all. I get to step out of my GC cocoon one more time for Google Tech to let them know and give them a piece of my mind. So for the original Lucky Lefty, I'm Shaun Davis. We bid you adieu until tomorrow. Don't forget, Coach Carl Reed, 247 Sports, joins us for 30 minutes tomorrow. We'll talk about everything concerning college football and recruiting right here on the Lucky Lefty podcast. Spin it different today.